You wildly overstate or completely make up crime statistics that are not real, that do not justify such action. And for this administration, you send first masked men to the cities that you want to militarize.
Well, the governor said Bay Area cities are making progress in reducing crime and federal enforcement is not needed.
This morning, there are large protests outside Alamina's Coast Guard Island. The Trump administration sent more than 100 federal immigration officials to the Bay Area. Protesters have already clashed with law enforcement. KTVU's Ali Rasmus joins us live outside Coast Guard Island entrance to show us what's happening there now. Ali?
Well, there's a new development just in the last 5 minutes. No one's been able to cross this group of protesters, about 300 people, who have gathered in front of the entrance, blocking the entrance to Coast Guard Island. But now there's some Alameda Fire Department trucks, three of them actually, to be exact. And the protesters say that they don't trust that there's actually a fire on the island, so they've instructed all the protesters here to continue walking and not let the fire department through. Again, we don't know if they're passing through to go someplace else or if they're trying to get onto Coast Guard Island or what the reason is. We'll reach out to Alameda Fire Department to get more information. But for now, the protesters aren't budging. There were some cars, their personal vehicles that had been parked on all three intersections here. So this one here, and they moved those vehicles parked here, but there's other parked vehicles on this side of the intersection, and then to our left as well, some vehicles of the protesters as well as a U-Haul truck. This is to prevent, according to organizers, any Customs and Border Patrol vehicles from driving in and being part of getting through onto Coast Guard Island. So this is part of the demonstration and protest action that's been happening here now for the past several hours. As you mentioned, there was a confrontation just after 7 o'clock this morning. That's when, before these personal vehicles were parked blocking here, there were about 7 to 8 customs enforcement vehicles, clearly marked as law enforcement vehicles, that tried to drive in to Coast Guard Island, the entrance here, and they were stopped by the protesters in this crosswalk. And one of the CBP Customs Border Patrol agents got out. He was dressed in tactical gear, had a helmet, he had a vest that clearly identified him as being with the Border Patrol, and he was wearing a gaiter covering his face. He got out and he told the protesters to move. His specific words, and go back and look at the video, was, "This is not safe, you guys have to move." To that, some of the protesters responded, "Why is it not safe?" implying, "What are you going to do to us?" So at that point, things kind of came to a head when the law enforcement vehicles were trying to slowly push through, and protesters held firm and didn't want to let them pass. Take a listen. That was the first of 2 flashbang grenades that were deployed. We don't know which law enforcement agency did it, but I believe, taking a closer look at the video, it was one of the Border Patrol agents that was there at the entrance as these vehicles, CBP vehicles, were trying to drive through. But shortly after that, those protesters had to disperse, and some of those vehicles, about 7 of them, did drive through onto Coast Guard Island. But since then, the mood here has been much more relaxed and toned down. Just about a couple hundred protesters walking around in a circle. You can hear singing that's been going on here. Some people wearing costumes, other people juggling. But the latest development here is that you have these 3 Alameda Fire Department vehicles. They don't have their sirens on, but they're clearly trying to get through. Protesters here, we overheard them on the PA system kind of speaking to everyone here, saying, keep walking, because they said that they don't trust that the fire department actually needs to get onto Coast Guard Island for an actual emergency. Again, we will reach out to Alameda Fire to get the details about the situation here. For now, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Ali, I just looked up Alameda Fire Department, and they have dispatched 3 units for a medical emergency dispatched at 9:38 a.m. Truck company, an engine, a battalion, and a medic. It looks like a pretty routine emergency medical call that you get all the time. So there could be, someone who needs the fire department on the island. It looks like a routine medical call on the island. that you do all the time. That's if there's something going on the island, Alameda Fire does respond there.
Interesting, though, Ali said that the protesters appear not to sort of trust or believe that there is a legitimate reason for the fire department to come onto the island. So we'll bring her back in for more reporting in a minute. I wonder if James Torres can see what's happening from his vantage point. Ali and James, a couple of the several crews we have there. You know, you're not too far away from where she is here, but it is very much a different scene, right, James?
Yeah, it's really fascinating what's developed throughout the morning here. 7 o'clock is when we saw that 5-minute period of where things got very, very tense. It's been pretty peaceful since. A lot of these folks here have been taking over the intersection. They've been walking all 4 crosswalks here in front of Coast Guard Island, singing together in prayer, saying prayers together. And then we have this incident here you just heard from Ali describe. Alameda fire trucks that all they were blowing some sirens as they were approaching, and it looked like the protesters at first were going to make way to let them through. We had one woman that was walking around telling everyone, you know, there was someone on the island that had some sort of medical emergency. That's why they're here. It has nothing to do with the protest. But then you had other protesters step in and say, whoa, whoa, hang on, keep walking. Everyone keep walking, keep singing, keep doing what we're doing here. So it seems like there's a bit of confusion. It doesn't seem like all the protesters here are all on the same page on what it is that they are trying to achieve, but you can still see a number of people who are standing not even on the crosswalk anymore, but on the roadway directly in front of the fire truck here from the Alameda County, or rather Alameda Fire Department, City of Alameda, and it doesn't look like they're gonna be moving at any moment here. There was one woman who said, you know, if someone has communicated to us that there's a need for it, then let us know. But otherwise, we don't see any fires. We don't see anyone within our kind of group of people that need this kind of attention. So it doesn't seem like this fire truck needs to be here. Again, you have other people saying, well, hang on. Some people did tell us that there's a medical emergency on the island, and that's why they're here. So it doesn't really seem clear where everyone is getting their communication from and why they're not all on the same page. That cheering you're hearing, they all just heard the word. They just read out San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie's statement saying that he spoke to President Trump last night. The president telling the mayor that the deployment of troops, federal law enforcement and federal immigration officers to San Francisco is called off. Now, that's coming from Daniel Lurie. That's coming from the mayor of San Francisco. It doesn't necessarily mean anything for cities like Oakland, Alameda, and other Bay Area municipalities that have been preparing for this kind of deployment. Also, there's skepticism from people who are here, too, because they say, well, I could have sworn I saw some of these Customs Border Patrol people coming in here, and didn't we hear that 100 plus some of these people were already here? So, you know, I think they're taking some of these words with a grain of salt, but that is what we're hearing from Daniel Lurie. That's what some of these folks are now hearing for the first time just a few minutes ago. But the latest development here is this fire truck situation. The fire truck looks like it's now making a 3-point turn or a U-turn to turn around now. I'm not sure if these firefighters, if these first responders are trying to get out of the truck, but no, it looks like they're actually making the turnaround because they can't get through and they can't breach these protesters. So that is the latest of what we have here. It's not clear how much longer these protesters will be here. I've seen a couple of them leave, but still very much a heavy presence here. Still plenty enough people to be here to block off this entire intersection. Garcia, Sal, and Andre.
James, let's go back to that fire truck that now does appear to be turning around behind you. Of course, we all know they have sirens, they have lights, they have speakers. You know, we've heard them, you know, yell to motorists who don't pull over to get out of the way, that sort of thing. Was there any of that sort of interaction with the crowd of protesters?
Interestingly not. You know, as they were approaching, they had the sirens coming in, I think just letting traffic know as they normally would. But when they actually pulled up